evening and welcome to West Country Live on Monday, the 4th of January. I'm David Foster.
And I'm Katie Haswell. West Country Live is your new regional programme for and about the West Country. Wherever you live, we'll be bringing you the latest news of what's been happening right across the region.
I'm Mark Tyler. In sport tonight, a comprehensive roundup of the weekend action, all the goals from Yeovil and Torquay, plus today's excellent news for West Country Speedway fans.
Hello, I'm Ron Bendel with the weather, and it's not looking too bright, I'm afraid. Wet and very windy for the next day or so.
And the main headlines for the West Country this evening. An 83-year-old pensioner stabbed during a robbery at his home in Newquay says he's now afraid to go home. A dangerous criminal is still on the run after he escaped from Exeter Prison. An investigation is underway. And it may take years to clear away the wreckage of the Chinese ship that crashed into rocks near Prawle more than 2 weeks ago.
West Country Live is news and a great deal more. Just today's events, but also a rich mix of regional features.
So, coming up tonight, first the main news and weather. Then we'll go to our 4 local studios in Truro, Barnstaple, Exeter and Plymouth to hear from your own local reporters. After our first break, Insight, our look at an important West Country issue. Tonight, the future of Devonport and its effect on our entire region. After that, our features, starting tonight with Sterling Soap, Ian Sterling's view of the ITV soap operas. Eats and Treats next, that's our look at the very best of the West Country's food and drink. Then, after the second break, it's sport and weather, followed by an up-to-date summary of the local and national news signed for the deaf. But first, in West Country Live, the main news from across our region.
An 83-year-old Newquay pensioner says he's too scared to return home after being attacked and robbed in his bedroom. He was stabbed when burglars forced their way into his terrace house. Heather Lima has the details.
I was afraid, stinking afraid. Yeah. Especially 1 o'clock in the morning. A great hulking brute, 6 foot, come down the yard.
But that fear didn't stop 83-year-old war veteran Tom Jones tackling the men who'd broken into his home in St Mary's Road and had stolen £1,000 from a drawer. And the burglars didn't think twice about stabbing a frail old man.
He put the knife in the sock. And while we were wrestling, he dug it in. And then I noticed it bleeding like a stuck pig.
Police are hunting 2 men who cut Mr Jones's grass in December. They want to eliminate them from their inquiries. Meanwhile, victims like Tom are being urged to be cautious.
I would say to shout and scream, but not try and tackle them. Obviously, an elderly person is not going to be able to take on a young person.
Tom is due to leave hospital on Wednesday. He says he's too scared to go home. Heather Lima in Newquay for West Country Live.
An inquiry into security at Exeter Prison has started after an inmate escaped. The prisoner, who's still on the run, is the second to escape from the jail in just over a month. Sheila Brocklebank has this report.
Paul Harrison was serving a 2.5-year sentence for burglary and possession of drugs. Police set up roadblocks last night and carried out door-to-door inquiries immediately after his escape at around 7 o'clock. But there have been no sightings of him since then. Paul Harrison was a Category C prisoner, which means he wasn't regarded as a high security risk. He was working as a cleaner in the prison hospital when he escaped. Officials say that because he was Category C, he wouldn't have been as closely supervised as some other prisoners. It's the second escape from Exeter Prison in just over a month. In November, Stephen Thomas, a remand prisoner, simply walked out posing as a Saturday afternoon visitor. But the prison governor said the 2 incidents are not connected.
On this occasion, we're talking about somebody who's actually breached the physical security of the prison. Now, it's a matter of great regret to both myself and the staff that this had happened not only once but twice. This occasion is different to the first. That was the case of a man who was unconvicted, who, because he was wearing civilian clothing, was able to mingle with his visitors and make his way out of the prison in that manner.
Mr Alderson said he's already started an inquiry into prison security. Sheila Brocklebank in Exeter for West Country Live.
Wreckage from a 10,000-ton cargo ship could be a hazard for years to come. The Chinese ship, the Demetrius, is breaking up after she was swept onto rocks more than 2 weeks ago. Charles Rhodes has the story.
On the morning of the 18th of December, the 400-foot Demetrius was being towed 10 miles off the southwest coast when her tow parted, leaving her at the mercy of a force 10 southerly storm. At first there was relief that there was no repeat of the Rose Bay oil spill 3 years ago. But now the council is concerned that it will be left to pick up the pieces.
As a local authority, we're fairly powerless to do anything about it. The vessel's in the hands of the receiver of wreck. She belongs to the insurance company, I presume, who will pay for her. And we simply have to pick up the pieces as and when they arrive along the coast.
Attempts to trace the Demetrius insurers are still being made, but there's unlikely to be any salvage operation. Instead, Southam's council will be powerless as the winter storms break up the wreck. Then the poll taxpayer will be left to pick up the tab for a wreck of a Chinese ship towed by a Russian tug on its way to a Turkish port. Charles Rhodes at East Prawle for West Country.
Officials in Italy investigating the death of a pilot from Truro have told the Foreign Office that he was working for Croatian partisans. The body of 54-year-old John Hawke was found in the Adriatic 100 miles off the coast of the former Yugoslavia. It was recovered by fishermen in December 1991 near the Italian town of Bari. His body was still strapped in the pilot's seat. Reports suggest he was shot down or blown up by a bomb while smuggling weapons to the rebels.
A record number of kidney dialysis patients are being treated in Truro. The development means scores of people no longer have to travel all the way to Plymouth for treatment. Paul Moss has been to Treliske Hospital to see how this has changed patients' lives.
When I came here first, I was a very sick man. Now, you won't believe it, but this last summer I painted my bungalow. This place is lovely. This place gives me life.
George Watter is one of hundreds of people who's been helped by the Treliske Kidney Unit. But the expansion of services here hasn't only saved lives, it's also allowed people to live them more fully.
Douglas Marsh runs a residential centre for autistic adults near Truro, but he says if he needed to receive dialysis in Plymouth, his career would have developed very differently.
Basically, it would be stopped in its tracks, really. I have to be an affordable asset. If I become unaffordable or too expensive or unable to do my job efficiently or effectively, then obviously an employer is going to think twice about, giving me a bit of slack to come and do what I need to do.
The Royal Cornwall Hospitals Trust say the new service shows they're responding directly to public need, and they're claiming it as one of their successes since opting out of health authority control last year. This is Paul Moss at Treliske Hospital for West Country.
South West Water is spending £27 million taking over a waste management company in Taunton. Hall Waste Limited is a division of English China Clay. South West Water says that all 230 jobs at Hall Waste will be unaffected by the takeover deal.
Well, no, those are the main West Country stories of the day. In a few minutes, we'll visit our other newsrooms for your local news from the north, south, east and west of the region. First of all, though, a word about West Country itself. The technology behind this programme and our regional coverage is the very latest in Britain. We'd like to show you something of the planning and preparation behind West Country Live and West Country Television, your new television service, the voice of the South West.
2 years ago, West Country existed only on paper. In this, a 130-page application for the right to broadcast on Channel 3 to the southwest of England. 9 months ago, we had an empty building and not much else. 4 months later, it had been transformed into one of the most advanced television centres in Britain. Since then, we've been working up to this, being on air. And now we're here, we'd like to explain a little bit more about West Country and tell you what we're here for, because what we're doing breaks new ground in regional television, both in terms of the hardware and the programming. Let's move through sound control and come around here into the main studio, from which West Country Live will be broadcast every night. The first person we meet is Lisa. She operates the auto cue setup. In fact, she's the only person we meet in the studio. I'll explain about that in just a second. The auto cue operates the words as they appear on the camera, words for us to read as we sit behind the desk. And these cameras are in fact robotic. As I said, there's only Lisa in the studio besides us, and the cameras can move up and down as directed by the gallery. Well, we've thought hard about how best to use this advanced technology, and a major part of West Country's commitment has been to put reporters and camera teams in 8 key areas. In Penzance, in Truro, in Barnstaple, in Plymouth, in Torbay, in Exeter, in Taunton and in Weymouth, right the way across the southwest.
This part of the world has been sadly neglected by television over many, many years. In fact, I think the nearest TV crew up until now has been something like 30 miles away, and it's always had to have a big justification to come down and cover this part of the world where there's many, many things going on.
We'll be seeing Cornwall a lot more in the news, and particularly the west of the region, which as far as I'm concerned has been ignored totally up until now.
Now we've actually got a reporter in Truro and a shop front in Truro, which means that people can actually come into an office down here. It means also that we have a faster response in responding to stories happening in Cornwall, and it just makes us a much more local news operation.
With a studio in Barnstaple, we can go live into Plymouth and straight onto television screens throughout the southwest, and indeed to the whole of Britain if we want.
By having a West Country reporting team permanently based here, the people who live in this area will now have a television station that tells their stories.
I think it's so easy for me to get to any story all over Somerset really quickly, whereas previously a crew and reporter would have been sent out from Plymouth, which is a heck of a long way, and I can just literally get into my car and be anywhere in about half an hour.
I won't be any more than about 20 minutes drive away from anywhere in my own region, which means that I can be the first on the scene of a story and also the last to leave and still get it on air.
And what will come out of it all? Well, not just an hour's news, but news and a great deal more. The interests, the concerns, the personalities and the fun of life in a great region of Britain. Well, I'm now in our newsroom, which you'll be seeing most nights on West Country Live. It's from here that we'll be doing our weather reports and our news updates. And you can help us get it right. We want to know what you like about what we're doing and what you'd like to see that's different. So write to us and help make West Country your station. That's certainly what we reckon we're here for. Our chairman is Sir John Banham. He lives in Cornwall and he has a very clear view of what the television station for our region should be.
As a viewer, I want to see local news, I want to see local news, and I also want to see the West Country being properly represented, because I'm fed up, frankly, as a citizen of the West Country, with the whole region being shortchanged, with people taking us all for granted, with our fishing industry being decimated by people who aren't worried about the West Country, but much more worried about the interests of people in Scotland, Hull, Grimsby and so on. It's very important to me that we have a flourishing economy here. As a young man, I had to leave home in order to go and find the kind of job I wanted to do. And I don't want the same problems to continue to afflict the next generation. I think it's very important that the region, if you like, creates its own future. And I think we can help to do that.
So who exactly is backing West Country? Our main shareholders all have long-term interests and commitments in the southwest. They're Associated Newspapers, owners of the Western Morning News, Brittany Ferries and South West Water. With that heavy local commitment, one question keeps cropping up. What will we do if one of our shareholders makes the news and doesn't want publicity? How free will West Country be to handle controversial issues independently?
When West Country first approached me, it was one of the first questions I asked them too. Can I be sure of absolute editorial independence free from shareholder pressure? That assurance was given to me immediately, and I insisted on having it written into my contract. So certainly, yes, we do have powerful regional shareholders. We have South West Water, we have Brittany Ferries, and we have Associated Newspapers. But that doesn't mean that our journalistic coverage of events like another Camelford or another Zeebrugge or another Wapping will be affected one iota by that shareholding.
And how will we do it? As we've said, West Country Live is news and a great deal more. All our research has shown that you, our viewers, want more and better coverage of the region and its interests. In an hour, we can do that.
Stand by D and roll D.
Hello, Mark Tyler.
There'll be 5 or 6 minutes of sport every night, all the results and action as you'd expect, with Mark Tyler and Martin Dean, plus an offbeat look at West Country activities with Sally Simmons. And there'll be sports specials when you'd expect them.
And roll C.
It's time now for
Our political editor, Peter Hayes, will bring nightly news from the West Country corridors of power, and with his team in London will keep an eagle eye on Westminster. And once a month in Power Game, he'll examine major issues in real depth.
Stand by C and roll C.
Community affairs is about getting the viewers involved with the television station in improving the community they live in. So every Wednesday there'll be a slot called Living, in which I'll be presenting an account of somebody in the community who needs help. And it may well be that somebody watching is able to give that help. That'll be a regular thing. The other thing we're doing is West Country Crime Stoppers. People are very worried about crime. We'll be presenting accounts of crime and then saying, you're the viewer, you may know something about this, you can do something about it. So we're trying to help people improve the community they live in.
And that is just a taste. West Country will in fact produce more than 11 hours of local programmes every week. That's far more than viewers have been getting up till now. So West Country Live and West Country Television will use the very latest technology to bring you the very best in regional coverage. We have more staff on the ground, more regional studios and more camera crews than any other ITV station of this size. We'll celebrate the West Country and make sure the region has a voice in us.
Coming to camera 3 and cue Katie.
Well, that's the story of how we got here. Now let's see that technology in action as we cross live to 4 of our local newsrooms. They're in Truro, Barnstaple, Plymouth and first of all Exeter. With her report from the east of our region, here's Sheila Brocklebank. Sheila.
Good evening. Exeter City Council's own workforce has won a lucrative housing repair contract. The 3-year deal has been won by the city's direct services organisation. The deal safeguards more than 120 jobs. And in Oakhampton, the fight to save the town's post office goes on. The authorities want to hand over the running of the post office to a private agency, but protesters fear that could mean its closure. They've handed a petition with 3,000 signatures to Emma Nicholson, the West Devon MP. And the 2 main courtrooms at Exeter Crown Court have been closed because of asbestos dust. The problem was discovered after routine tests. It won't be known for 2 days when they can reopen. In the meantime, cases are being heard in the 3 other courts. That's it. Back to you, Katie.
Thanks so much indeed, Sheila. Now going over to Truro, where Heather Lima is waiting for us. Heather.
Hello, and the news from the west of the region this evening. The daughter of a 68-year-old Bodmin woman who's seriously ill in hospital is flying home from the Antipodes to be by her side. Maria Rossi from Cross Lane is in hospital at Plymouth after being injured in a road crash. People living in Newquay and St Austell now have easy access to maps which could show whether they're living close to a mine shaft. Restormel Borough Council put the plans on show today. They were drawn up after a woman died when a shaft opened up in her garden. And with 12th night fast approaching, people are being urged to recycle their Christmas cards. Money from Cornwall County Council scheme will pay for trees for the new national forests. Back to you now, Katie.
Right, well now we cross over to Barnstaple, where Gavin's waiting for us. Gavin.
Good evening, and from the north of the region tonight, 60 jobs are at risk following the decision of a Barnstaple company to call in the receiver. The Carpenter's Workshop on the Roundwell development will continue to manufacture bathroom furniture in the hope a buyer can be found. North Cornwall District Councillors are to meet within the hour to discuss proposals to slash more than £750,000 from the budget. It's unlikely there'll be a freeze on all staff recruitment. And finally tonight, theatregoers in Barnstaple were treated to some real-life drama at a Queen's Hall pantomime at the weekend when one of the actresses was proposed to during the final scene. She accepted and the audience burst into applause. Who says romance is dead? Katie.
Absolutely. Now finally over to our Plymouth studio where our Deputy News Editor Sue Carroll is waiting for us.
In South East Cornwall, Carradine Council has been assessing the problems of homeless young people. They say around half of the cases they deal with are considered crisis situations. Some young people have been sleeping rough in woods, tents or on a friend's floor. A 3-day quiz competition is being organised to attract tourists to Tor Bay next month. The local Hotels Association is looking for teams from throughout the southwest to compete for a £1,000 first prize. Organisers hope next year's event will stretch to a week, boosting their winter tourist trade. And fundraisers in Saltash have collected more than £600 for a 7-year-old boy with cerebral palsy. The money will go towards a computer for Matthew McGillicuddy of Landrake to help him communicate.
Well, now in a few months' time, those 4 studios will be able to go to their separate ways to bring you your own longer local bulletins. And we'll have our other 4 local studios up and running before the end of the year.
Well, time now for the weather with Ron Bendel, who has all the latest information at his fingertips. It's beamed direct to his computer at the West Country Newsroom's weather station. So if it's rain or shine, and more often than not at the moment it's rain, you'll hear about it first from Ron.
And you'll hear from me now that we've got some pretty rough weather in store with strong, even gale force winds tonight and tomorrow. If we look first at tonight's map, this evening will be overcast with mainly light rain and drizzle in places, but some heavy rain will move in from the west, accompanied by hill and coastal fog. It's going to become very windy tonight with south to southwest gales around coasts and headlands. And be warned, gusts in excess of 50 miles per hour expected in places. But it'll be mild. Temperatures will not fall below what they are at the moment, really. Around 8 or 9 Celsius, that's 47 Fahrenheit. Tomorrow will start cloudy and wet in most areas, but clearer weather with a few squally showers will spread in during the morning. Parts of Cornwall and South Devon may well keep the rain well into the day, but some sunny spells are likely further north. South to west winds will continue to be strong and even gale force. It will be mild though, around 10 degrees Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit. There are the tide times for tomorrow, 2:30 in the morning at Bideford, round about the same time in Plymouth. Surfing, not too bad. And there's the outlook, unsettled with rain at times, but staying mild with fresh westerly winds. That's it for the moment. Back to the studio.
Well, our apologies for the fact that the first weather map didn't work, but we got it right in the end.
Time now for a break, but after that we have Insight. That's our close look at an important West Country issue. Under the microscope this week, Devonport. The future of the dockyard is crucial, not just to Plymouth, but to our entire region. With the verdict on its survival just weeks away, we'll look at how that decision will affect you.
And then Ian Sterling takes his very personal look at the ITV soaps. That's In Sterling Soap. All this and more in just a few moments. Stay with us.
If the rain makes you think about the state of your windows and the repair and painting hassles you have to endure, why not free yourself to do better things? Call Moddeck. Your windows will be fitted by experts, and they've got a guarantee 50% longer than other leading makes.
Buy 8 or more Moddeck windows and we'll give you a free front or back door. Call Newton Abbot 63333 now.
The Corgi originally was a cattle dog. We've actually bred 7 champions. And I think feeding's probably the key to everything. They've always enjoyed pedigree chum. The dogs have always loved it, but one of them found it too rich. We tried an improved recipe and his tummy was much better. It's definitely more digestible. He actually woofs it down. He's put on body and coat and condition, and he's a happier dog. I would certainly recommend new improved recipe pedigree chum. I think it's the best.
What's the answer to too much Christmas? Good old yellow pages.
Eddie drinks Carling Black Label.
Carling what?
Carling Black Label. It's brewed in England to 4.1% for fuller flavor. And because it's the #1 selling beer over there, you ain't gonna find enough back here to spit with. Yep. Ain't no wonder at their Carling's #1.
Start your holiday the relaxing way. Why make the beginning and end of your holiday difficult by flying out of London? From Bristol Airport, it just couldn't be easier. From leaving home to boarding the plane. And now, flying to even more holiday destinations than ever before. Ask your travel agent for a summer destinations leaflet and think of Bristol Airport first for holiday travel.
PG picked the freshest tips of the tea bush for their bags. So for the tea you can really taste, watch out for the tips.
Welcome back to West Country Live. It's good to have your company.
There's plenty more coming up. First, a full update of the West Country's news. Then, Insight. That's our close look at an important local issue. Tonight, Devonport, its future and you. After that, features, starting with Ian Sterling's very personal look at the ITV soaps. And then, Eats and Treats, the best of the West Country's food and drink.
In sport tonight, all the flavour of Yeovil's big cup tie against Arsenal and the latest pictures from Tasmania as the leading boats in the British Steel Challenge complete stage 2 of their intrepid journey.
Well, since we've been on the air, our Deputy News Editor Sue Carroll has been keeping track of today's news as it develops. So if you've just walked in through the door, here she is from the West Country newsroom with an update. Sue.
An 83-year-old Newquay pensioner says he's too scared to return home after being attacked and robbed in his bedroom. Exeter prisoners started an inquiry into how an inmate escaped. Governor David Alderson says he regrets the breach of security which allowed Paul Harrison to break free. Officials in Italy investigating the death of a pilot from Truro have told the Foreign Office that he was working for Croatian peasants. Back to you, Katie.
January 1993 is a crucial month for the West Country, whether you live in Truro or Taunton, Hale or Honiton. The government is now considering who will win the multi-million-pound contract to refit Britain's nuclear submarines. The competitors, Devonport Dockyard in Plymouth and Rosyth, 500 miles away in Scotland. A decision is expected within days. If it goes north of the border, Devonport could close. West Country Television believes the decision is vital to the future of this region. All this week, we'll bring you a special series of reports on this important issue. Tomorrow, the view from the rival camp, Rosyth in Scotland. On Wednesday, the human cost of closure seen through the eyes of a Devonport family. On Thursday, experts deliver their verdict. And on Friday, live in this studio, we talk to the man spearheading the Devonport campaign. We start this special West Country series with our political editor, Peter Hayes, on how the whole of the West Country, not just Plymouth, will suffer if the decision goes against Devonport.
The West Country has served our nautical nation for 300 years. The region has twice as many defence-related jobs as any other part of the country. Devonport, run by DML, is the area's biggest private employer, with 5,200 workers. But away from Plymouth, few people worry about its future.
Would you be affected if the dockyards closed at Devonport?
No, not at all.
Not in the slightest.
Typical reactions in this case from Truro. But at the other end of the region, Somerset businessman Brian Gardner is worried. He could be on the verge of losing one of his biggest customers. 30 jobs here depend on events 100 miles away.
I don't think I could find the work for anyone at all of them. It would mean them going onto the redundancy scrap heap, which I would be very sorry for. It would have devastating ongoing effects for my company and for them, very obviously.
The Yeovil firm provides scaffolding for refit work at Devonport. The contract is worth a quarter of its turnover, and it's by no means an isolated example. DML provides work for 600 firms across the region, and the spending power of workers keeps many more businesses afloat. The first effects of closure would be felt right next door to the yard.
It's my livelihood, isn't it? You know?
What happens if the yard closes then?
I'd close as well. You know? Guaranteed.
The local taxi firm, too, says it would die.
As you see, we're outside of the dockyard gate, and if anything goes wrong with the dockyard, we're going to be the first to suffer. 80% of our business comes from the dockyard.
In Plymouth city centre, businesses know they'll suffer, but they won't be alone.
It's a point that's often forgotten. The major industrial city in the southwest is Plymouth, and any negative effect upon Plymouth will affect the region without any consideration. It is not just a Plymouth-based question.
Devonport is worth £520 million annually to the West Country economy. The loss of the refit work would cut that to £360 million. And the complex supports 30,000 jobs across the region. Without the nuclear work, this would shrink to 21,000.
It's a mistaken view that Devonport is a Plymouth problem. It isn't a Plymouth problem. Plymouth is very important to the economy of the far southwest, and without a strong Plymouth, I think it would be very difficult to sustain the current level of economic activity throughout Devon and Cornwall, and certainly would be very difficult, I think, to solve the problems of areas to the far west.
The West Country has already been battered by the recession. In 1 year, 2,000 jobs have gone from farming, fishing and forestry, 6,000 from construction, 12,000 from transport and tourism, and 28,000 from manufacturing. Devonport workers are used to the spectre of redundancy. 10,000 jobs have gone in the past 10 years. DML says if the nuclear work goes to Rosyth and is reduced to repairing surface ships, the whole yard could become unviable. Workers view the prospect with horror.
Well, I'd be as sick as a pig. Well, no, wouldn't you?
Not much work around.
Nothing. Nothing except that place.
It's our future. If we don't get a try, then we may as well give up. We'll have nothing at all.
Meanwhile, there's been an angry reaction in the West Country to a national newspaper report that the government has already decided to award the nuclear contract to Rosyth. Our political editor, Peter Hayes, is now in the newsroom. Peter, let me put you on the spot. Is it true?
It's impossible to say, really, because not one government minister will talk. But in London, there is a growing feeling that this intense lobbying campaign by Rosyth has paid off. Lord King, the British Airways chairman, who also heads the group running Rosyth, has been leading hard on cabinet ministers and on Treasury officials. Now, he's apparently told them the Rosyth bid is cheaper and won't cost as many jobs. But Devonport are incandescent with rage at the mere suggestion that they've lost. And they say leaked reports to Tory newspapers is a classic government ploy, float an unpalatable idea and then gauge the reaction. Mike Lees, in fact, the managing director of DML, has just dismissed the reports as rubbish. Incidentally, I've just spoken to the Ministry of Defence, who say all these stories are untrue. No announcement has been made, no decisions taken. So the fight goes on, and we should hear the outcome in 2 weeks' time.
Well, we'll have further reports on the battle between Devonport and Rosyth all this week on West Country Live. It's a decision which will affect all of us. Time now for a weather update with Ron Bendel, who's busy working away at the West Country weather station.
Well, the details coming up in our second main weather bulletin of the night, of course, but for now, really a warning of heavy winds tonight. Gusts of up to 50 miles an hour or more are expected on coasts and headlands, heavy rain too. And tomorrow, even though it'll be mild, strong to gale force winds will carry on, making it all a bit drafty.
Well, the aim of West Country Live is to bring you the latest in news and happenings around the region. But there's another sort of happening that affects many people's lives and meal times. If you're hooked on Home and Away or obsessed with Emmerdale, then you're a soapaholic. So too is Ian Sterling, without whom no episode of Coronation Street would be complete. Ian will be joining us twice a week with his update and his lowdown on your favourite soaps.
Hello, yes, it's the very first Sterling soap. And what a weekend we chose. We've had everything over the festive season. We've had passion and tears and violence. In fact, very little ho-ho-ho. For instance, in Emmerdale, as you probably know, Kim has finally left Frank and she's gone off with Neil. Now, Frank retaliated by horsewhipping Neil in front of the entire hunt. But then, on the stroke of midnight, he decided that Kim's clothes needed a little bit of alteration.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Dad, is that you?
Dad?
Bitch! Bitch!
Dad!
Oh dear. Now we all know where Kim's going to be. She'll be in the clothes shops for the January sales, of course. Now we've had 2 helpings of Coronation Street over the weekend. Last Friday, the Carmel story finally broke. Martin has had enough and he decides to throw her out. Now remember, Gail knows nothing about what's been going on.
I don't understand. What is it you're saying? I love Martin and he loves...
Carmel, will you stop that now? Right, look, your gear's down there. Just take it with you, will you?
He doesn't want to hurt you, Gail, nor do I, but you have to face it sooner or later. I don't believe this. He's not for you, Gail. You're too old for him. You took advantage of him. Get out of my house. Get out right now. Are you coming?
No, I'm not, Carmel. Can't you get that into your head?
Well, I'll wait for you then. You know where to find me. Get out. You'll know. Get out. I'll wait for you, Matt. Get out. I'll wait for you. Out. My house. Get out. Martin.
Oh, now do you think we've heard the last of Carmel? I very much doubt it. Actually, 2 viewers have come up with the most amazing theory. They say that Carmel will tell Gail that she's pregnant because of the night of passion she had with Martin. She wouldn't, would she? Yeah, she would. Anyway, did you see the classic Coronation Street last night? That was amazing. They turned the clock back to when Mike and Ken had their very first disagreement.
I've had enough of your poison in my family. More than enough. Look.
Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin.
And that's how it all started. Actually, Judy Finnegan reminded us that Ken and Mike have actually fought over 3 separate women. First of all, there was Deirdre, then there was Alma, and finally Maggie. But the thing that really got the nation going, it was only a few years ago, was when Deirdre was actually going to leave Ken and go off with Mike. But Ken won out in the end. But Mike wasn't going to take that lying down.
Anyone serving here? Are you monopolising the place?
Don't you start.
I'll start any time I like where you're concerned.
Look, just keep out of there, just
Look,
keep
you
out.
sold him a lot of junk.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
Hey, as a matter of fact, I am.
Hey,
Bastard!
Not this one.
Come here, you! Come here! Leave it out, all right? Just leave it!
All right. I never started it, did I?
I'll vouch for that.
Started it. You started everything.
So the new year has started with a bang. Now, who's going to tell Duckworth Hall about the affair between Lisa and Des? We'll find out tonight, Coronation Street, 7:30.
Ian, I think all we need to do is buy you a garden gate, because it's just wonderful gossip. You could just lean on that, couldn't you?
I love it. I love it.
It's great stuff. The address.
Now, yes, the address. If viewers have got any comments about the programmes, write to us at West Country, Sterling Soap, West Country, which is P.O. Box 25, Plymouth, PL1 25, Hilda.
25 Hilda. Ian, what I want to do is actually run through some of the things you're going to be doing. You're doing the soap twice a week. That's Mondays and Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And then on Fridays, we're going to see you again for Sterling Salute. What is that?
It's we're looking for unsung heroes, and in fact, we want to hear from the viewers if they can think of someone who's been doing a lot of work for the community or their family or whatever it is, and nobody appreciates them, and we will appreciate them. You'll see how on Friday.
Yeah, and it's lovely to see you. We'll see you 3 times a week.
Thanks, David.
Katie.
Well, if you've asked the staff at West Country why the station's based here at Langage, just outside Plymouth, some of them might tell you it was because of the ice cream. Langage Farm, just down the road from us, have been winning top awards for their ice cream ever since they began production in the mid-80s. So I nipped over there to find out what all the fuss is about. Langage is a complete West Country success story. They make over 30 varieties of ice cream. and they sell the stuff to outlets all over the West Country. This one here is blackberry and apple crumble, and if I can scoop it up, I'll have a taste. It's the first one that Langage ever made. Oh, Peter, that is really delicious. What's the secret ingredient?
I think the secret really is that the cream that we use from our Jersey cows.
Where does that come from?
Well, we've got all 300 cows here on the farm, and we use all the cream from the cows to make the ice cream.
And why is Jersey cream so special?
It's a secret, I think, really.
Can't you give us a hint?
Well, it has got more flavour and more colour than ordinary cream, and we think it does make a better product.
Now, what's the favourite flavour?
I think at the moment, English toffee is probably one of the top sellers, but the raspberries and cream and the blackberry and apple crumble, all are very good sellers.
Langage is a children's Aladdin's cave. Ice creams with mouth-watering names like Apricot Brandy Crunch, Maple and Walnut, Thunder and Lightning. And it's all produced from Jersey cows that once grazed on fields where our West Country studios now stand.
Basically, it all happens in a day. We milk the cows and get the cream. We then add it all into a big vat and pasteurise it, homogenise it, and put it through the machine. And we're making probably about 300 litres of ice cream an hour through that one machine. And then as soon as we've made it, the important thing is to get it into the blast freezer and get the temperature down to about minus 30 degrees.
I've just been in to inspect the freezers and I can tell you 31 degrees is very cold, but it's all worth it. Now you're going to be making us a special West Country ice cream. How are you going to do that?
Well, we can make anything really. We've made special ice creams for various people, and so what we thought we'd do is try and make one of a kind of a television with your colours in it. So we'll see what we come up with on the night.
Are you going to be able to manage the blue all right?
Blue is a very difficult colour, in fact, to produce because making it with a natural colour. But we think we can come up with something which will look very effective.
Blue, there it is.
We don't know what the blue is though, do we?
No, we don't, but it looks like a great ice cream, doesn't it? As long as it doesn't melt.
Before we get off air, well, coming up, we've got some sport. Mark Tyler has the full story of Yeovil's brave performance against the London Giants Arsenal.
And we'll have a full summary of the day's regional and national news, signed for the deaf. That's all after this break.
Well, the trouble is, when you've got kids, and they get fashion conscious, don't they?
Oh, they are.
And they says, can I have my jeans, or can I have this, that and the other? And they don't want it tomorrow, they want it now. Yeah, so put it in the electric tumble dryer.
And you've got to plug it in, haven't you, and switch it on.
Well, it's nothing easier, is it?
No.
Bob's your uncle, it's done. Lovely. No moaning, anything to keep him quiet.
Oh, I know.
For all your creature comforts, Tumble Dry Electric.
Your teeth are under constant attack from plaque. So are their foundations, your gums. Fortunately, there are lines of defense. Brushing with McLean's fights the plaque that causes tooth decay. It also helps protect your gums from disease. For healthy teeth and gums, attack plaque with McLean's.
Would you like to be more creative with your needlecraft? Discovering Needlecraft is a new fortnightly publication which provides inspiration and instructions, plus all the materials you need to complete one simple project. And each issue comes with both trace and reusable iron-on patterns. It even tells you how to avoid mistakes, to help you complete each job, however difficult. So get Discovering Needlecraft and see what you can do with a little inspiration.
Today in Britain, there's a type of scavenger. Like a hyena, it preys on the defenseless. It shows no compassion towards its victims. Most car crimes are committed by opportunists. If your car hasn't got adequate security, you're making it easier for them. Leave it unlocked,
and they're laughing. Car crime. Together, we'll crack it.
You may not know about Hib infection, but you could know about its effects. Here, children demonstrate some of the consequences, as only children can. High fever and listlessness, serious blockage to the windpipe, painful infections of bones and joints, striking at the elbows, knees, ankles, or fingers. And worst of all, Hib meningitis, which can lead to deafness, brain damage, convulsions, and even death. It's now possible to immunize with the Hib vaccine. If your child is under 4, your GP, health visitor, or clinic will contact you. Even a full load of towels costs less than 25 pence when you tumble dry electric.
Welcome back to West Country Live. Thanks for joining us. Mark will be bringing us the sport in just a moment.
Coming up, a full summary of the regional and national news signed for the deaf.
And the weather. Stay with us for details of a day or so that are set to be rather wet and windy.
Well, every night on West Country Live, we'll bring you a roundup of the very latest sports and leisure news. Not just football and rugby, but a wide variety of events from all over the region and beyond. Time to join Mark Tyler.
Good evening. At this time on West Country Live, there will be the very latest sports news about teams and personalities from the region. Coming up tonight, the full story of Yeovil's big cup match, some excellent news for local Speedway fans, and to begin with, pictures from the other side of the world, where the first yachts in the British Steel Challenge have now arrived in Tasmania. Nuclear Electric was the first over the line yesterday afternoon. Race organiser Che Blythe met the 14-man crew in Hobart with the usual bottle of bubbly. After the champagne, time for a much-needed shower, hot meal and sleep. And Plymouth's Pete Goss, the skipper on Hofbrau Lager, is due to arrive in just over an hour's time. Well, back at home, Yeovil Town's long-awaited cup tie against the mighty Arsenal was the focus of attention over the weekend. No fairy tale for the Giant Killers this time, but a day to remember for a special group of supporters.
Pre-match nerves for 9,000 fans as well as the players who wouldn't miss this game for the world.
I'd have even cancelled a holiday or anything to be here today. It's a nice little setup they got down here, isn't it? It's all right, it's not bad, not bad.
Who do you think's going to win?
Yeovil.
What's the score going to be?
2-1.
I remember 1971, but we look forward to winning. Always come to win, don't we?
Paul Smith also remembers 1971. He played for Yeovil when they lost to Arsenal 22 years ago, but he's an Arsenal fan.
There are loads of Arsenal supporters, it's great. Nice to see a lot of red and white here.
His wife Dot carries the flag for Yeovil and trousers for their son Rob.
You're not worried about Rob catching his death of cold?
Oh, they'd love it.
No, he's young and fit, and I've got his trousers in the bag just in case.
And Rob's hero, Ian Wright, led the way for Arsenal after 25 minutes. Wright's second on the stroke of half-time sealed Arsenal's win and should seal his international place alongside Alan Shearer. This mistake by Andy Wallace in the second half gave Wright his hat-trick. But Yeovil kept on fighting. A clumsy tackle and they were given the penalty. A chance for Paul Batty to beat Seaman from the spot. So victory for Arsenal, 3-1.
I think Dot's gone home. No, he doesn't. All right.
So you pleased then?
Yeah, very pleased, yeah.
Thank you very much. I think they put up a very good fight. It was a good performance, very good game.
Do you feel sorry for Yeovil? Do you feel for them?
No.
Not at all.
Could you imagine if they'd have won? They'd have felt sorry for me.
I mean, George is a realist and he knows that they want to hide nothing when they came down here today. He's going to get absolutely no credit for beating us 3-1. Maybe even a bit of criticism for the margin not being bigger. But he's gracious enough to give us all a pat on the back and say well done and, you know, wish us the best for the rest of the season.
Torquay United started the new year in much the same way as they'd finished the old. Chris Curran's early goal for Scarborough setting the pattern for a miserable afternoon for the home side. The only bright spot for United arrived midway through the second half.
Myers then with the corner. Playing towards the far post, Johnson. And Ian Johnson puts Torquay United back on terms.
But any hopes of Torquay pulling the game out of the fire rapidly disappeared as their sluggish defence was caught out again and Darren Foreman restored Scarborough's advantage. The final blow came just seconds from the end as Tommy Mooney made the most of a misunderstanding between Johnson and Summer to complete a comfortable victory for Scarborough.
Speedway now, and the Exeter Falcons will definitely be flying again next season. There were doubts about the future of the team following problems over the negotiation of a new lease at the County Ground Stadium. But it now looks as if the sport will continue in the city until the year 2000.
It was quite difficult, but I'm happy with the outcome and I hope the landlords are as well.
What sort of a deal have you actually negotiated?
It ensures Speedway is at the County Ground until the end of the century, basically. And I'm sure bikes will war on into the next century.
The top rugby match in the region saw Plymouth Albion put up a spirited performance against First Division Wasps. But the visitors ran out narrow winners by 11 points to 9 and scored the only try midway through the first half.
The ball comes back. Friday, Braithwaite, Maddox, into the line comes Pilgrim. And this gives the left winger John Abadan a chance. He's got a lot of pace, Abadan. Very quick winger. Goes inside and then outside, and what a magnificent try for the Wasps that was. Some very good handling in the backs, and John Abadan showed his true pace to score a super try in the corner. The first try of the match coming in the 21st minute.
Finally, racing goes ahead as planned at Newton Abbot tomorrow despite last week's vandalism at the course. The first race is at 1:15, and if you fancy a flutter, why not try your luck with Jebel Prince? That's in the 4:15.
Well, time now for a final look at the weather for tonight. Ron's been compiling the latest information at the West Country weather station.
Thanks, Katie. The picture continues to be one of a rather rough night with wind and showers moving across from the west and generally unsettled weather well into the week. Tonight, well, a night of light rain and drizzle being followed by heavy rain coming in from the west, accompanied by